and welcome back to the channel, everybody. Yes, so in this week's video I'm going to be heading back over to the storage yard. It's getting towards the end of Feb, so we've had a lot of rain, a lot of wind, and I just want to make sure the caravan's okay and there's no hidden surprises. But whilst we're there, I thought we'd get onto the subject and talk around pegs. Now, pegs are for your awning, for your windbreakers, and just go over sort of just sharing some information that I think will be useful for you, especially if you're first starting out. So we'll make our way to the storage yard, have a bit of a wander around, check the outside, check the inside, and then we'll get on to the subject of pegs. Rightio, so I've made it over to the van, had a quick look around. Outside's looking fine, no cracks or no damage to the windows or anything, so no water ingress, anything like that's actually happening. What I'll do is before I leave, I'll just check the battery just to make sure the solar's still topping up the lithium, and that's good for when obviously when we get to move the caravan and bring that back to the house. But as I said, talking around this subject around pegs, I thought I'd just go over exactly the different types that we've come across and just what our views are on that. Now, it's important that you use the right pegs because it's not always going to be glorious sunshine, no wind, perfect ground for getting pegs into the ground. So again, knowing which pegs to use and when, and being prepared before you go to site is going to be key. Now, your standard peg, I would say, is going to be pretty useless, and you'll probably see these to start with and think, oh, that's fine, long enough, exactly what we need, happy days, let's go. But what you'll soon find with these is, even on grass pitches, you hit one stone and hit it with a mallet, these are just going to bend, and before you know it, you're going to end up with that, and that will frustrate you pretty quickly when you're trying to sort of pin out an awning, even a windbreaker. And also, like I say, it won't take a lot of wind for actually these to come loose, as I'm sure you've come across this if you've ever done sort of tenting in the back garden or gone out and about in tents. They soon come away, and you're always having to sort of attach them and so forth. So these, if you've got this in your kit, I would recommend, yes, it's a backup that you've got, but they're pretty useless and not something that I would recommend whatsoever. So as I said, if you've got an awning, you may not have an awning, but that's fine. You might just have windbreakers, but again, these ones are the plastic ones that you may have come across. And again, that's straightforward enough, and a step up from the standard peg on grass pitches. But again, if you're on any kind of hard standing, that's not going to be a great deal of use to you, and probably find out that, yeah, all it's going to do is snap, or it's just going to stay put. So again, not really one that we use at all, but again will be standard that you get in some of the kits. The third one is your sort of larger nails, and again these are sort of suitable for all conditions, and one that we would use quite often, but again it really depends on what the setup is going to be for that given week. But again, really strong, and again something that you can sort of drive into the ground. And then another option that you may have seen are these newer type where obviously, yeah, you've got a drill bit that goes into your drill, and they screw into the ground instead of using a mallet or a hammer to actually nail it in. But again, it will depend on the ground of how good these are. And again, some people don't get on well with these, but again, there's an option that you could try. So when it comes to driving in pegs, your best friend is going to be your rubber mallet. It's got enough weight to it. It's not going to be too noisy when you're actually driving those in, so again, pretty straightforward and probably what you'll need as your go-to item. Now, I do always take a hammer with me because there has been times where I've been on hard standing and the mallet hasn't quite been up to the job. So again, always worth having a hammer in the back of the car if that's something that you have. Again, not just for pegs, this is just something that I would have as a spare item, screwdriver, pliers, things like that, just things that I might need if there was to be any issues with the caravan. I'm not saying I'm going to take a hammer to it, but again, just sort of default tools that I think is worth having, just chuck in the back of the van. But again, another option to be your friend if you get any stubborn pegs. So when it comes to the actual screw type, obviously you wouldn't need a hammer or a mallet or anything along those lines. Obviously you'd have a drill bit. And you drill these into the ground, so obviously it stops you having to smash them with anything else. Obviously you can use the standard drill, but what you might struggle with this is you'll need to just change the setting to hammer mode. So obviously when you're putting those in, it gives it a little bit of thump going in. Otherwise, if it's just in the normal drill setting, when it hits a rock, it may just sit there and actually not actually penetrate the ground. And then the other option is if you've got an impact driver, and again that's sort of built into these by default, and we'll put those into the ground with ease. But again, not everyone has an impact, but again you can get away with it just using the drill if that's all you have. Let me know which pegs you use when setting up by dropping a comment below. So which one would we recommend? I think you probably guessed. Our standard would be the larger nail ones. Really easily available, will cater for any ground that you use, hard standing, grass with rocks, whatever. This would be your standard. Don't need anything electrical like a drill or impact driver. You can just use a normal mallet, and worst case scenario, you forget either of those electrical devices, somebody will always have a mallet around to help you, or it hasn't gone flat. So again, this will always get you out of sort of any trouble that you may have. So I would say by standard, these are the ones that you should have, and obviously enough for your peg your awning out, your guide ropes, and your windbreakers if that's something that you put up. That's just to keep that peace of mind. Also, if you get any strong winds, you know it's not going to go anywhere if you've done this right. If you use the standard TED pegs, I would say, yeah, you're at high risk there, because what you'll probably find is if it's raining or it's really windy, and you don't really want to be getting up at silly o'clock in the morning to go out and sort of fight with an awning or a windbreaker, or find out in the morning they've collapsed. So again, just sort of do the right thing, get yourself some decent pegs. And then once you're comfortable that you've got those and you want to experiment, then probably move on to some of the screw pegs, because again, they are good, but again, I wouldn't say they're the default go-to. They come with higher risk because there's more things to forget, and what you wouldn't be doing is then smacking them in with a hammer afterwards, because you're sort of defeating what they're for. So like I say, your default I reckon would be these. And what I'll do is I'll link in the description everything that you've seen today, so hopefully that helps you just to get the products that you need. As always, if you found this useful, if you can consider liking and subscribing, that really helps the channel to grow, and share this content with others. And yeah, we'll call it quits for this week, and I will see you all on the next one. Cheers everyone.